Thank you, Aunty Rose, for being with us today and having a conversation about we're all in this together in National Reconciliation Week 2020. So I was wondering if you might start, for those who don't know you and the work you do, if you might explain a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Oh, good morning, Jazz. It's very nice seeing you this morning and be part of this conversation. As you know, I'm always more than happy to assist in any way what you want me to say or the topics that you need to address. First of all, I just said now we are just over the Zoom here at the moment. You're over there and I'm here, in between their ancestors of this land. Even with our conversation this morning, I just like to acknowledge that, you know, where you're at and where I am, because we are on Aboriginal land, and being a Torres Island, that is very, very important for me to address that. Yeah, well, those of who do not know me, my name is Macroselu. I'm referred to as Aunty Rose, which I'm a part of the elder group here in Brisbane, the Torres Island group. I come from I was born in the top Western Islands of Torres Strait, an island called Saibai. And then raised up, moved across to Seychelles very young when I was a baby. And then, of course, we lived up on the tip of Australia, where the land was given to my father by the Aboriginal people, a land called Seychelles. And I come from the Chieftain clan on my father's side of the family, and which is a crocodile clan. And on my mother's side, it's Southern Cross and the snake, carpet snake. I speak several languages, only because I was sent to Melbourne to further my education back in 1960s. And that English was not my first language, so I learned to speak English when I was down there. Then, of course, after that, I think it became more kind of evident, not evident, but, you know, easier for me to pick up other languages very quickly. So I speak that apart from my own language. And then, of course, lived over in Hawaii when I did my PhD at the University of Hawaii. I learned to speak fluent Hawaiian language, which is very blessed by that. I must say that just the other day I was doing that, and I was trying to exercise, bring back, you know, because it can go off a bit, you know, and I talked to her. But then we had a Zoom meeting yesterday. That was good. So my identity is actually a Melanesian, a Torres Strait Islander, Torres Strait Islander woman, and currently I work for the Relationships Australia, Queensland, as it's a counsellor, but they class as a engagement and wellbeing officer. I do my work with my contract is for Northern Peninsula area, Cape York, Torres Strait, and Cairns area, including Yarrabah. So, and then of course here in Brisbane, my clients is kind of scattered around. So that's what I am, and yeah.
Thank you. How are your communities travelling in the middle of COVID-19?
Oh, that's very interesting, Jazz. You know, like it's also very overwhelming for all of us. I must say that. And, you know, for me, first of all, if I say that for myself, it was like very challenging because as you know, I travel extensively through the year with my work and everywhere else. And I'm always part of something here in Brisbane and that. So I think this was like a challenge for me. And also at the same time, I have to say that it was very good in a way that I reflect back to the things that have, you know, that have happened, and what is there is something I didn't pay full attention to in my journey and or with my work. And then of course, you know, working from home, it's been kind of really relaxing in a relaxed kind of way. And then plus I had to catch up with my housework and everything that's overdue. Yeah, but it's for me it was very challenging. And then of course it never stopped me, as you know. that I was constantly on the phone and few of the Zoom meetings like we're having today, with the clients, with our community, engaging with them, and just asking them how they're traveling. And of course, for us, it was very, not stressful, it was different because our community likes going about and doing things and communicating, socializing, and all that type of thing. And it was very hard for us or for them also to be able to adjust to that, in the last few weeks. I think still adjusting, even though that we got a little bit of that lift up of those restrictions. But I think in a sense too, I have to say this, this is just like the spiritual view. When I talk to some of our men and women, our elders in our community, the Torres Strait Islanders, they were saying about, is God challenging us in some way? Is there a message for us here that, this thing happened 100 years ago? There was with the Spanish flu, or whatever they call it, and now we're on COVID-19. Is God telling us something on this? Is He challenging us for something? And is there something that we're not doing right? Of course, our people say, which I agree very fully, because I think like that we look at the environment, are we a busy environment in a way, the God's creation, and these things happening. There's a lot of things happening. We've got the climate change issues, we've got all the other things happening. And there were just those kind of things. I think people were, I guess in a way that they were maybe saying that this had never happened before. Why is it happening now? Is God saying something to us? So, but in that sense, when I have a conversation to them around it, give them a little bit of peace and comfort for them, and trying to work out what best, how when we're at home and what we do, and how that makes us to be like, we can on the phone and talk to one another each day, just say hello, how you going, and have you got anything, have you got any sanitizers or all that type of thing. But I must say that my work has been very, very good. They've been delivering all sorts of stuff for me, from food to, the hygienic stuff, for me. And so it's good. It's good, yeah.
Do you want to speak any more about the environmental impacts that the Torres Strait are facing in relation to, you brought up climate change? You do a lot of work and advocacy in that area, don't you?
Yes. It's as you know, Jazz. It's been that's been my area of commitment to the global warming and climate change. I addressed in Paris in 2016, I think, when I was over there for the World Global Warming Conference, and then of course around here in the Torres Strait. And recently, earlier this year, for the first time, that I flew across to my island, and this was for about with the work and just to catch up with the families, and then of course walking on my land on the island, which was very, very uplifting for me and very emotional. I have to say that it was quite not funny, it was quite interesting. As I was flying, coming into land, then of course my island is very, very flat. And, it's one of the climate change kind of area, the part of Torres Strait that is affected, many times. And all I can see there was, I couldn't believe it. It was all water than the land. And I thought, well, am I seeing things here? But when I looked down and I can see the village, and then I saw the houses, and I was kind of, there's a house. Anyway, we landed. And when I got out of there, of course, I was very emotional because I was on my mother's land and father's land, and I acknowledged that. But then during the few days that I was there, I was talking to the people how that is, especially on Saibai, which is my island. And I saw the walls that were built up you know, for the what they call it, from the rising sea, you know, to
Like
try and
levees or
protect.
something. Mm.
And and I'm thinking to myself, you know, that was very different, and you know, it's been eroded very, very much, and it wasn't like, by God's grace, the people live comfortably and peacefully, and they believe in that's God-given land for us. And but like outside of there, and all of a sudden I said, I would never. How would I sleep at nighttime when when there's a monsoonal, and even when we were there was a great big strong wind. So of course the island is so low, and when there's a high tide, the high tide comes kind of like a little bit higher than that, and it comes right through, even if we have those seawalls built there. And then of course the color of the ocean was not very good, like not the real color, because of things under the ocean and all that comes up, and even flying across the Torres Strait, and it was a beautiful day, I must say that. And seeing the central islands of the Torres Strait, and there were only like sandbars, they're the atoll islands, and they're really like in the, you could never see them in a way of like, if you see them, you think, how do people live here? So the effect of that is I'm talking to people, and they said there's a fear still behind, in a way of when, because of the climate change, it changes every day. Then of course it goes back, like I said it before about COVID-19, conception of people, the way the thoughts of them, they're saying, it's abusing we are abusing God's creation. Our oceans are getting dirty. There's all sorts of rubbish under the ocean bed, and it's killing our sea life. Oil spills and everything else, and all those sorts of things, and like that's not right for the well-being of our people and sustainability of our people. That they're thinking of that. One day that where are we going to get the food from, and the fish are all died. And then of course the water itself, when the water comes in, absorb up on the garden beds, that it doesn't become, the plants doesn't become live. They're all dead. So you can kind of plant those vegetables, and like before, they're fruiting and everything else, and you get them out in seasonal harvesting and all that type of thing. And so it become very significant and very important for our people up there. And there are, I believe there's a group of young people from Central Islands. They are now negotiating with the government, and I think with the UN as well, in terms of, the current situations, in the Torres Strait, especially when we're coming up for the wet season, which is like, not now, but just around Christmas time, when there's a torrential rain and all the, gale force winds and effect of the cyclones when they're ever traveling down Coral or Pacific Ocean, and we get the aftermath of that. And even when they're up in the Darwin area and around Australia, we still get that force of that wind, and that is damaging. But the people, even though that this is affecting them, and they concerned about it, but at the same time they have a real faith, a strong faith in that. And they said to me, auntie, sister, daughter, they said, if this is God's will, we will survive this. Or if it is will that these islands will go, that is His will. We accept that. So when I talk to them around, how would you be if there was all of a sudden that we have to be evacuated? we have to go. The authorities might say to us, you know, we are no longer be surviving here. We have to go somewhere. How would you feel about that? Now, it goes back to many, many years ago when I was officer in the Department of Aboriginal Affairs. And it highlighted at the same time one of the ladies on Voigo Island, where she was questioned by one of the officers to say, how would you feel if your island sink? How would you see? Are you able to move from here to be able to survive? And because she has an interpreter beside her, and there was me there, and we explained it to her, and then she turned around and she said to us, tell him, God gave me this land. She said it in Pidgin English. If that is his will, that this island will sink, then I will sink with it. And you know what? That's many years after, Jasmine. These were the views on my island. The older people was telling me exactly the same thing. Why would we go? Our umbilical cords are here. God put everybody of us here, the generation to generation. So, and then the others are saying, this is his given land to us and he will protect us. So that was a very powerful message. But of course, I'm still working on that. I'm hoping that I was supposed to go to New York this last month to address this at the one of the forums at the UN. But then, of course, with the COVID thing, that I won't be able to go. But it's always good that we send the papers electronically to them, and then they address it over there. Hopefully that I'll get a response back, yeah.
Mm-hmm. What struck me in that story is that the umbilical cords in the land, and I suspect that might be literally and metaphoric, you know, there's this sense of birth connection to land, and
yes.
And that land is a source of life, just as the umbilical cord is a source of life from the baby, the mother to the baby. There's a sense that land is there's an umbilical cord between you and the Torres Strait, like this sense of the land gives life. Is that true for you?
That's very true, because when I was there, I was happy to go where I have to say this sacredly, you know, in a way, now we are on the media thing and now, but I also went through to see where I was, you know, where mine was, in a way of, I didn't particularly go exactly to the place, but just standing in the position of where I could see where it was when my mother took that, you know, and my grandmother. And so that was very, very deep for me, very emotional. Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome.
One of the things that has always struck me about you, Aunty Rose, is your deep strength, but also your generosity in that. So you've got this deep just resolve and strength about your culture and what you believe is just and right, but you're very generous in the way you teach people and take people with you on the journey. So as we are about to sit in Reconciliation Week, and when people hear this, we will be in Reconciliation Week. What does that mean for you? What does reconciliation mean for you?
Oh, my dear, you know me, reconciliation for me is everyday thing, Jasmine. And not specifically for this week coming, that we're going to have the Reconciliation Week. But I think for me, being with the people, either with my work, my friends, whatever I do every day, and I look at that, and I look in the view of the reconciliation, how the reaction of people, the questions, the responses, and everything else, you know, like how you're communicating, or even you walk with the person as you're chatting about, and you know, I have to say this to you, it's sometimes I think I take it very deeply in a way that I think I said it many times before, maybe for you and many others say that, you know, for me, as a person and growing up in the family, which is a very, very, very important part of my life. And those things were very instilled to us when I was even a baby up, growing up. And my father's and mother's view on how you reconnect, how you connect, and what are the things there that you look at, to be able to walk slowly. Now I'm going to go back again to my father's vision of that. And he always say to us that you walk with the person side by side and you listen. You listen very carefully. Don't interrupt, don't intervene. Wait until the person they're talking to you about anything and everything. You just listen. Even though that you want to answer quickly, but you listen. You listen for the last word, the tone and the speech or whatever he's saying, the tone of the voice, that will give you the answer to be able to do your response. That way, you are starting to connect with the people. And I think, now this is a person, actually I have to say this, yesterday was my dad's death anniversary. And I was reflecting on this as I was here. I was a little bit emotional yesterday morning. And I was talking to him in here, just here in the house. And I'm thanking him for all the things that he has taught us, or a lot of us, 14 of his children. And the path that he and Mama set for us to walk, and thank him for where I am today. And I was saying to him, all these things happening here with the COVID, and now the reconciliation you just mentioned, and Mother Day coming and everything else. And I said, Dad, you look into your spiritual eyes and you always say to us these things for me. I said, I'm still remembering that very well, and it's very, very clear for me. And I want your guidance in a spiritual way for me to be able to be with the people and challenges that are ahead of me. So when I was preparing this morning for you, I was reflecting on his word also in a way of when he was saying about the reconciliation. You never know the word reconciliation, Jasmine. This is a person that never been to school, but very wise person, in a way that he could see the connection. But all of that, there was that word love. He was focusing on the word love. He said, you are no different to anybody. Like, remember I told you about the rainbow?
Yes.
When we were traveling to Saibai one day on a boat that he was skippering the boat. And there was a beautiful rainbow at the back of Thursday Island. And we were all jumping up and we saw all these colors, and we asked him, oh, look, that's beautiful, that's beautiful. Then he called us all on the deck and he said to us, that is God's creation. In this world, there are so many beautiful colors, he said to us. He said, don't forget this as you journey through your life. He said, those colors are all together. It's for you to be able to walk in those colors, in that light. You'll be able to see and connect. He said, one thing, he said to us, there will be different cultures and different traditions in the world that you will come across in your generation, and then, of course, your children to come. And he said, never forget who you are, what you are, and to connect to that and be part of it. So as I was preparing for you, I was thinking on this, about that. For reconciliation for me, Jasmine, is in a way, is reconnecting and continuation of being challenged and being there to be able to say, okay, we do this beat here, we already come this far here, and we still got a long way to go. And how do we do it? How are we going to do it? And for me, I said, I will forever, I'm continuing to bring people together, let them know about us, my people, our cultures, our identity, our way of life, how we see the whole Western Western world and how we view it and the things that are in there, how we, for us to be able to understand one another. One of the things, it has never been, we haven't got there yet in a way of really fully understand, be part of it, But I must say that, there's been those little steps that we've taken that is a good progress of bringing people together. And for me to be able to reconnect back to the people and be able to be there for them and walk with them again and just listen. And of course, tell them continuously about my culture and traditions and how we see the world today in the government, in the religion, whatever way we are connected. So I think in a way the reconciliation means a lot to me, my dear. Yeah.
Thank you, Auntie Rose. That image of walking alongside each other and listening and listening and listening some more before we step in to speak, very
Yes.
powerful, and leads me into my next question about if we were to do that as the non-Indigenous section of the church, if we were to really truly listen and hear Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander leaders and people speak, what is a piece of wisdom or a couple of pieces of wisdom that you think we can hear this National Reconciliation Week as we're in the midst of climate change and as if we're in the midst of COVID-19? What is some wisdom that you want to leave with us or help us to hear, other than all the other wisdom you've just shared?
Well, I think I always go back to the wisdom of things is that we all have the wisdom, all of us. We all have the strength, we all have integrity to do things. And if you're looking at the Indigenous view of wisdom, or view of, looking at the whole things around, we are governed by today, by the rules. And I reckon for me that, go back to the word challenge again, it's a challenge for us now, even in this current situation, how we connect to the land, how we connect to the people, how we connect to the Indigenous people. Continuation of listening to the stories, absorbing the significance of our culture and our life, the way of life that we have, and be part of it. This is a busy world, Jazz, as you and I know. People do their own things. You only have this little bit of time to go, and you never learn through that. Unless you go and live in the Torres Strait or down here, when we're doing some activities, like go back to the coming of the light, I want the church to be part of it completely. In a way, at least come and spend the day, be there, not just come to the church service and do the reenactment. How about the questions about the significance? Why are we doing this? Why are we reenacting the coming of the light? What does it mean of the Torres Strait Islanders to accept the gospel to our waters? What is it like for us to be Christianized? And what is it like for us? Why are we going to church? How do we feel about it? All the worship, all the things that we do. Now you and I know that singing for us is uplifting of us, of our own selves, our spiritual thing to be closer to God, because we know what we're singing about and what that means. Sometimes for us it's a puzzle because everything written in Western language, and we're trying to connect to that. Some of us, like me, in a way that, okay, I know what it means like that, but there are other people and young people, they don't want to look at the book. They either sing and use the drums or do the reenactment or do the dancing. And it comes through that. The message comes through that, through the dancing and the singing of our spirituality, how deep it is for us, and our strength, our wisdom, and how we believe in God. Now, with the question that you gave me about for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders, for the church views on that, I would very strongly recommend. Church has done well so far, and there's more to come, yet more to go, not to come, yet more to go. So we continue to listen, learn, and be part of it. So as God's people.
Thank you.
Is that right?
It's more than all right. It is. Thank you. And finally, we, as Reconciliation Week ends, we arrive at Mabo Day, final day of Reconciliation Week. What significance does Mabo Day have for you?
Well, because it's part of the reconciliation too, because he set the precedent for the whole of the nation. When the findings were handed down in the High Court, and that's bringing all of us together. And he himself, because I know him personally, because he used to come down a lot to Brisbane, and he used to say to us, this is like what I'm saying, bringing people together. Tell them about ourselves. Tell them about the land, what it means to us. What it means to us. We how we nurture it, and how it is. We even sleep with it, we eat from it, and sleep on it. So I think significance of that day for me is honorably in a way that I really is a great mentor. This guy, that late brother, late Mr. Mabo. And for him, it was a great struggle from the start, in a way, to be able to achieve through those years of, negotiating with the government, and it was like a brick wall for him, in a way, to trying to explain what the importance of the land is for our people, and how he sees it was again God-given land for us, for our cultural beings, where we can do things on our land freely. And it's not saying that you're being selfish. You want to invite other people in to walk on that land freely. And then I think he himself also was struggling from the start, in a way, because they were referred to as a crown land. And then he was saying, well, crown land, what does this means? And that means, of course, as he went through those years of fighting for the rights, that, how it is in the Commonwealth, it is a crown land, and now the significance of that, the meaning of all that. And then he was saying, okay, if it is so meaningful there, how about turn your heads and look at us and how meaningful it is to me and my people. And I guess, as we're celebrating that again, it's bringing people together again, reconciling again with one another. And at the same time, telling stories to one another once again in 2020. And be able to say, okay, this land for all of us. It's not just, okay, Torres Strait, we have our own land there now. But it's not saying it's only the Torres Strait Islanders' land. It's for all of us to be walked together freely in there and joyfully enjoy whatever is happening on the land, and nurture it, respect it, speak to it, honor it, because that's where, for you being as an Indigenous person, that we believe strongly in that. I was talking about the umbilical cord before, and I think that's why this late brother, Koiki Mabo, he took the people after the High Court people after his island on Murray Island, to be able to walk on the land where his umbilical cord was buried. And you see the significance of that? And while walking on that land, he was connecting them and reconciling them. And I think that's where the greatest belief came from. They actually woke up and said, oh, this is what it means. So that's what it means for me. I will actually be, because we want to be celebrating it physically this year, next month, because of COVID. So I'm one of the speakers that will have a recording that day. They'll have us recording down at LSQ. I'll be one of the speakers on that one for the Mabo Day. So there'll be more said there, in my speech. Yeah.
We'll have to put a link into that event.
Yes, I'll let you know. Yeah, I'll let you know about what's happening there and everything. Yeah. Thanks,
That would be
Jet.
great. Thank you. I wonder if we might take a moment to breathe and then whether you might say a prayer for reconciliation and the church and the world. Would that be okay?
Oh,
Thank
yes,
you.
yeah. You want me to say the English or language?
Language is fine, whatever you feel you want to do.
I'll explain it to you first, and then I'll speak in. I'll pray it in language. Okay.
Beautiful. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. You want to do it now, or?
Yes.
Okay. Let's take a deep breath first. What I'm going to pray about this morning for us is to thank God once again to bring us safely to this new day, and to thank Him for a continuous walk in reconciliation or reconciliation, reconcile with one another, and also give thanks for Him to direct us, show the path for us in a way for us to be understandable, by understanding one another, and to be able to reflect on what it's like in other cultures of the world, the traditions that He has given for the people around the world and on this globe. That's what I'm going to pray about. And also in the sense of us to come together, to look at one another, acknowledge one another, and be part of that, and feel free to be able to walk in His light and honor and glorify His name, and thank Him for everything that He has given for us to enjoy the bounty of His creation, and for everyday walk of life in this universe, for all the work that we have done in the church and government. We're thankful for all that, the leadership, the roles that we played in our communities, in our organizations, and the energy that we have to continue to walk in His light. Albatati Gimaldaba Kapsatarangin Magin Matang to the Minaga de Esocariso. Milaki Pesamina Bigigi Yabatan Lakin Turan. Itang Apagil tape and even rough nine being Ninungadano. Need people meeting Murang Pigil Maita Tabia Catano. I need people in him Senabi Buya in Nabifogo Gizano. Lakni Tura Nakaimi Niwaga, Kuraya, Wadagam. Inakalagay matampa na bipasa mulay sa karitepa sinabi sabi inatamo sabi na inantiday pa matikada tadi pa ita ninu yang kuri yakam pinanabi kakatuno nabi pokubogizono yakamari pa sinabi minayawa sa ingalagi niyawa tayo sila nakikita nila people ni sinabi ini minawana proper winawen. Ani lagi biasa mai mating kita minaugat tati, minaugat kasi, minaugat mari. We ask this in the precious Son's name, Jesus Christ, our Lord. Amen.